Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another live lunch with KUDZUKIAN. I have with me once again Larry, terrific, Terry Robinson, our CEO and visionary.
We got some lunch today.
We do have lunch today.
So listen, we wanted to bring it and be authentic.
Yes.
So we actually been eating. I wanted to do my Keith Lee impression. It's a little soggy on the bottom. No, I'm joking.
But we do have lunch today. And so before we get, deep into everything, I want to give everybody a minute to hop on the live. So if you know somebody, coming to the live. So if you know somebody, reach out to them. Tell them to, hey, go check out KUDZUKIAN on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, so that they can get the goods, all of this great information from the experts in podcasting. Larry, how's your day been so far?
It's been absolutely wonderful, Misty.
It's been wonderful?
It's been wonderful.
Oh,
We've had we got some good things that we're working on at KUDZUKIAN.
We do.
We launched the journey with KMG the other day. Yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it's doing really well.
It is.
Yeah, it's doing really well. A lot of people checking out the journey and whatnot.
I love it. And if you're not familiar, as we wait on people to come into the live, the journey is an initiative that we started, presented by KMG, our nonprofit arm, to highlight the journey of Black men in the city of Memphis with our host, Larry Robinson. And so we just launched the 7th season. Seventh season.
But guess what? We got in 2024.
Come on.
We got her journey starting.
That's exciting.
Women's History Month. In March, we're going to be jumping off with her journey, going to be profiling these amazing Black women of Memphis, Tennessee.
That's big. That's really, really big.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. We got a couple of sponsors already have signed up to help amplify the work that is happening.
Absolutely.
At KUDZUKIAN and her journey.
KMG.
It's actually KMG.
KMG. All right, y'all.
You ready?
Yeah, we are ready. So just to let you know, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, I'm looking. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. So Larry and myself, we're here to answer all of your questions. No question is dumb, no question is small, okay? And so Larry, today we just want to kind of recap on the past 2 weeks. So, of course, our first week of launching Live Lunch with KUDZUKIAN, we basically gave everybody an overview of why we're here. Right,
absolutely.
And then yesterday, last week, you kind of threw me out there on my own.
Well, that's because I was handling business. Now.
That's okay. I got some good feedback and some good questions.
Oh, yeah.
And so we talked about our 5-step creative process here at KUDZUKIAN.
Okay.
And so I touched on ideation, the big idea.
Yeah, coming up with that big idea.
And in development.
And
so today, I want you to
So what happens with development? Tell me what happens with development. Let's give you a little quiz.
Oh, okay. So in the development stage, you need to figure out how long your podcast is going to be, the name of your podcast, your co-host, if there is a co-host, location.
Absolutely. Is it going to be audio or video?
So I think I did good.
You did all right.
I think I did good.
I watched it, actually. I watched your performance.
Oh, you did. That's right.
And you did. And you did quite well. I was proud of you, young grasshopper.
Thank you. I learned from the best. And I'm grateful to have, a leader like Larry and a team here at KUDZUKIAN, and I just learned from every day. Y'all really inspire me. Okay, I'm not going to get mushy. All right, but let's go into ideation, because since you weren't here yesterday, maybe there's some things that I missed.
Okay,
so
all right.
Let's start ideation.
So first of all, it's the big idea. It's straight up the big idea. You want to make sure that idea is unique, is fresh, and it has a reason for being. Because otherwise, you're sitting back and you're doing something that somebody else is already doing. So you really want to spend a little bit of time of determining exactly what makes your content or what you're creating, needed and actually better than what's currently on the marketplace. And spending that time really putting together that ideation piece is extremely important. And I would say just make sure that you do that, and then do your research. Look at your names. Make sure that the names are that you come up with are not being utilized by other podcasts and other pieces of content. Make sure that those things are freed up. And you can do all that in that area of determining that big idea. Okay?
All right. And development.
Development. So development is when you really determine what the show is going to look like, where it's going to be, how it's going to be distributed, all those kind of things, or where it's going to be distributed as opposed to how. But where it's going to be distributed, is it just going to be audio? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be with 2 hosts? Is it going to be 3 hosts? Is it going to be a panel? All those things are extremely important. Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be monthly, bi-weekly? Is it going to be an interview show? Is it going to be no interviews? Is it going to be clips? Is it going to be audio clips? All those things happen in the development phase so that when you move to the next stage, which is
production.
Production, absolutely. So the next stage is production. So we at stage 3. And production is when you actually are creating the content. And with production, it's, where is it going to be located? All those things which happened in development, now you're actually putting that together. So you got a pre-production, which is when you talk about what this episode.
Hold on, Larry. Hold on.
What's up?
Because thanks to our team in the control room, we do have this presentation, our deck, which is actually the Podcasting 101 kit.
Yes.
And so what you see here on the screen is, one, if you want access to it after this is over, make sure that you click the link below, sign up for our newsletter so that you can have this and refer to, study, as you are starting on this journey. And so we touched on first one, ideation. We touched on development. So now we're in production. And Larry, you can continue with pre-production. What is pre-production?
Okay, so first of all, production is broken down into 3 parts. You got pre-production, production, and post-production. So in pre-production, typically that happens before you actually record an episode. So you might be sitting there with your team, you got the producer, if you have a producer, or you got the person that's going to be the guest on the show, or even your partner, and y'all really talking about the flow of the show. And we always recommend initially writing down as much as you can, because it's not a natural behavior yet for a lot of people. So if you're beginning, make sure you make copious notes so you can kind of go from those copious notes so that your show stays on course and you keep your avatar in place. That's something else that we should have talked about in development, is that who is it for? Who is the show for? And when you determine who the show is for, you can say, okay, this is my number 1 avatar. So her name is Carol. She's 25 years old. She's a graduate of an HBCU. She's working. She still living at home, so on and so forth. So when you're talking, you have that person in mind. Then you get your second best avatar. And your second best avatar's name might be Jack. Jack is a 40-year-old man. He has 2 kids and a wife. He went to a PWI, he went to a Big Ten school, and now he's this. And then you get your third avatar, and with that third avatar, you're now understanding who you're talking to. So let's go back to pre-production. Pre-production, you want to keep that in mind. Keep in what the topics of the discussion, you know, who's the guest,
Yeah.
you know, being able to make sure you don't have too long of a bio
Right.
so that, you know, that takes up precious interview time or communication time that's going to help that one of those avatars really become engaged with your show. So, you know, what the story's about, you know, that's really what you're talking about. And you also doing pre-production, want to talk about your wardrobe. If it's a video, you want to talk about, you know, makeup, you know, all those things, and have that planned out so that you do it well on the front end.
Yeah.
And then we get to production, just straight production. And production is
just this.
I mean, what we're doing now, we're in the midst of production. We have cameras. This is a multi-camera shoot. As you can see, the control guys, our crackpot team in the control room, you know, are switching cameras. They're putting up different images, so on and so forth. All that is production, and that's what's happening in production. You know, sound, you know, making sure your sound is great. The quality has to be there, especially if you're ultimately planning to get advertisers and get sponsors for your show.
That's a good one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's a major topic, not for today,
Okay.
but dedicating a day or lunch where we specifically talk about thinking about your sponsors and
Right.
people who could sponsor and underwrite your project, because it's needed, and a lot of people don't think about it.
So
A lot of
I'm
people don't
thinking,
think
man, we
about it.
need to have a sponsor for this lunch, this live lunch. I think
You
it
know,
might
we
be.
talked about that.
It might be pretty
Larry.
cool. It might be pretty cool.
Well,
So one
you
of
know,
these,
you a
one of
sa-
these times,
he's a
one of these
sales
times,
guy,
one of
and
these
so-
times, what you're gonna find is gonna be somebody plastered across it. Lunch provided by. So there's so many ways. We'll talk about how you monetize your podcast or your content as well in an upcoming episode of Live Lunch. But in the meantime, in this case, we'll kind of throw some little things in, like, okay, you got a drink, so might be a water beverage that's a sponsor. You might just have somebody who, you know, as a lunch, you know, this amazing sandwich. We're not going to talk about who it is because they didn't pay for it.
They did not.
So we
They
can't
did
give
not
them no
pay for it.
promotion on it. But when they start breaking us off a few dollars, guess what? We're going to be like, this sandwich is brought to you by...
Such and such
Ching.
and such and such.
So,
Larry, so I want to go back because as you were talking, a question kind of came into my mind. And again, I'm going to remind you, I asked all of your questions. And so in the comments, I'm looking at LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, I'm going back and forth. So
Okay.
make sure you ask your questions. But how important is training before starting a podcast? Do you think it's necessary for someone to have experience or training before starting their podcast?
well, I think, you know, what we always say is that your first show is your worst show. And yes, you should train and you should get used to your voice. Because many people, as they say, hate the sound of their voice. And I'm no different, and I'm sure others feel the same way. And one of the things that I did initially back, you know, this is about going back, 10
years
11
ago?
years ago. One of the first things I did was, as I was going down the street, I would call out the street signs. You know, I would say, oh, I'm driving down Union. I'm turning right on such and such, just so I could get used to hearing my voice, because sometimes that could be off-putting, and talking in a mic might also be challenging. So that just practicing that piece, even if you're not recording, are great skills to kind of build on as you're beginning down this journey of podcast production.
Yeah, that's good. That's some good advice.
All right.
And so now we move on to
Post-production?
Post-production.
Yeah. So post-production is what happens with your show at the end of your show. So you know, after you finish recording, what's happening? You know, the edit. How does it look? How does it feel? How does it sound? You know, this is where your editing comes in, whether it's audio, video, it's whether your graphic design. Are you going to do graphic design for each episode of your podcast? Or are you going to just have your show art that you could actually utilize, and then just in the captions or the words is what's going to tell people that it's a new show? All that is considered. Now, on our end, when we're working with our corporate clients, we make sure that each show has its own art. Each episode, each show, as well as each episode, has its own art. You know, our host of the shows, they actually go through a photo shoot, and actually we have original artwork for each show as well as each episode. And some of those things are things you can do. Also, you look at your show architecture and just making sure it's structured well. If you're going to have commercials, if you're not going to have commercials, you want to have those things in place. How long are your segments? All those things are things you develop on the front end, but you actually, you know, kind of edit to on the back end.
So editing is a big part of post-production.
Oh, absolutely. It's the main part because it's basically what people will experience. So if there's no editing, typically, you know, you have a product that is not very clean, but also you typically have a lot of ahs, and and some of those verbal tics that people have. So with editing, it allows you to have a more professional sound. And so that's important. It's very important.
And I would say, kind of going back to, because what you just mentioned is a lot of us aren't aware of those ands, likes that we typically say all the time. And not too long ago, I was listening to somebody and they said like after every word, right?
Really?
And so I think that reminds me of kind of going back to practicing.
Right.
You know, record yourself.
Yourself, yeah.
Before you release anything, to see what is that person hearing.
Right.
You know, and what you can work on.
Right.
You know, so that's good.
Very much so.
That's good.
So that's post-production, and once again, all this information is available to you as a download. After this, you can hit the QR code, or you can hit the link and actually come and you can download some of this great information.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the last two, we have distribution, then promotion.
Right.
Not promotion, then distribution. Why is that, Larry?
Well, first and foremost, have you ever gone somewhere and it's not been open? And typically, how often would you go back?
Not often.
Okay, so that's the same thing with your distribution. So the reason you have your distribution before your promotion is because you want to know where it's going. You want to know where the show's going to be. So if it's going to be on your audio platforms, you're going to have Spotify, you're going to have Apple Podcasts, you may Stitcher, TuneIn app, all those platforms, and YouTube. YouTube kind of is a hybrid kind of coverall because of this purpose of being video and also having an audio platform as well. You know, social media wise, is it going to be on social media? Is it going to be, you know, on OTT? So OTT is on Top
OTT?
Television, which is Roku, Apple TV, Samsung TV, LG TV, Fire TV, all these platforms that you can get from an app, a streaming app. That's your OTT platforms. And once again, YouTube kind of fits in multiple categories due to the fact that it's such a hybrid platform. And then also your analytics. That's where your analytics are going to come from as well with your distribution. So when you're sending it off to iHeart or you're sending it off to Spotify, you want to make sure you check those analytics so that you can see where it's resonating, how it's resonating, if they're, you know, because in the analytics is where you ultimately find out if what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
So once you review your analytics and determine how successful you are, then you can make the necessary tweaks to make sure you get those numbers up.
Yeah.
So that's your distribution. Is actually where it goes, where it's available for people to review it or experience your content.
Absolutely.
And then last and certainly not least, promo. So now you're talking about your social media. How are you promoting the fact that your content is available? Listen, this is not what is that, Field of Dreams?
I don't know. What does that mean?
Well, Field of Dreams is a movie, but you know, just because you created does not mean people are going to view it. They have to know that it's there. Mind you, there's a million podcasts. There's over 1 million podcasts out there in the universe. So people are not just going to be notified that your podcast is there. So you want to make sure you have a mechanism in place to promote it, whether you're going to promote it via social media, which has been proven to be one of your most effective forms of promoting your podcast, via Facebook, via LinkedIn, via Twitter. Those are necessary entities as far as promoting your show. Now, if that's where your audience resides, you want to promote it where your audience resides. If I'm making something for people under the age of 12, that's going to be a different promotional strategy than if I'm promoting something for someone 24 and older. So there's different platforms, but the main thing is you want to have a promotion to let the audience know, your target audience, once again, going back to your avatars, your number 1 favorite listener, your number 2 favorite listener, number 3 favorite listener, where do they typically consume content? That's where you want to make sure and promote your piece of content that you're providing. So make sure you do that. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those. You also have broadcast radio. As you can see, many of you across the country are maybe in iHeart markets. And what you will notice is that iHeart promotes its podcast on its radio shows, on its radio platforms. So then, but you still go to your normal podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or so on and so forth, but yet and still, they still are promoting it, utilizing that network, a promotional vehicle that they call broadcast radio. Also, you have your syndicated radio. You have other forms of radio. You also have your unwired digital radio as well. All those places are places you can promote. But at the end of the day, make sure you are targeting your ideal listener. I can't say that enough. And then on the other side, you can promote via Roku, you can promote through YouTube, you can promote through YouTube TV. If you're a watcher of YouTube TV, you'll notice that sometimes on commercials, it's like, do you want to listen to this Zen sound and things like that? That means that there's inventory available for promotion. And typically it's for a very nominal price. But with all that being said, just know that you got to do something to let your people know that your show is available for them to review.
So, question.
Okay, what you got?
Out of all of those steps, the 5 steps, which would you say is the most important?
That's a good one.
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead. Go first.
I say ideation, because I feel like everything you said points back to that idea.
Okay. Let me think about that for a second. I would probably go somewhere between ideation and development, because that's really where the sweet spot and where things are really, the magic happens. Because when you get that great idea, you know it. You know it all in your sha-na-na. You know it.
Okay.
You just you're like, yeah, shoot, that's it. I got it. So yeah, absolutely. I'd say somewhere between ideation and development. But please don't take those others lightly, because once again,
you need it all.
And your development and then your production. Now, you may start out with, not so great cameras and mics, are not the best. But once again, once you start, the whole thing is starting now. That's more important than anything, because a lot of people can plan and plan and plan and plan and then never start nothing. So that is all. That's the biggest problem. So what they say, done is better than what? Perfect. Done is better than perfect. Absolutely.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's what I say.
That's what you say.
Because sometimes you get hung up on trying to make it perfect and you don't get anything done.
Ooh, that's that part.
So we want to make sure that you get it done, but and you make those constant improvements. I mean, look at live lunch. We've improved day to day.
Yeah.
You see, last week I realized that Misty needed this handsome face next to her as we talk about the live lunch.
I think the people will probably disagree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think the people would disagree.
You don't think?
But
well, I got a lot of fan mail. I got a lot of fan mail, and they were saying, and they were saying, Larry, where you at? Why aren't you on the show? We need you on the show. And then, I got the groupies, and they were like, ooh, man, I need to see your sexy face on the show.
All right, Miss Nat, don't pay him any attention. Don't pay him any attention. And then it happened. So listen. Larry,
Okay, so we're going to do a recap.
Cool.
Number one, what is it?
Ideation.
Number 2.
Development.
Yeah. All right. Number 3.
Production.
All right. Number 4.
Distribution.
All right. You had to think a little bit. Number 5.
Promotion.
All right.
Promotion. And I think that maybe on next week we can probably dive deeper into promotion.
You want to?
Yeah, I think that'll be a good idea to dive deep into promotion. Either promotion or kind of go back to production, and then we can talk about equipment. Because we do have an equipment list, suggested equipment list that we want you to have, but
So if you wanted to create a podcast for under $500, we have a list for that.
Mm-hmm.
We have it at various stages. I mean, there's levels to this now. Let's make sure we get that out there, is that there's levels to this, but more than anything, perfect is not necessary. You just want to get it done. You want to get that first show done, get in the rhythm, and you make those small tweaks on the way. And if you need to, call KUDZUKIAN and ask, hey, KUDZUKIAN, how would you recommend doing this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
that number will send you straight to me. So I'm available. So that was good. I thank y'all for joining us. Again, if you catch this on the back end and you have questions, you can call us, or you can leave them in the comment section, and we'll be sure to get back to you, if not at that moment, or next week at the next live lunch with KUDZUKIAN. And so thank you all for joining us. Come back. Make sure
next
that you
Wednesday.
Follow.
Next one.
Can I finish? This happens. I'm sorry.
What?
Go ahead.
Next Wednesday at 12 noon. Be here or be square. 12 noon. Give me some more lunch.
Well, thank y'all for joining us. See you next week. Bye, y'all.